So a new bill has been introduced into Congress, and it seeks to finish what the Supreme Court started in getting rid of federal gun-free zones. So let's talk about this. But real quick before we jump into this video, if you think gun-free zones only make things easier for criminals, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe. Also, I want to thank the sponsor of this video, which is Pyramid Air. Founded in 1996, Pyramid Air is the oldest online store for air guns. With over 10 billion air guns sold, Pyramid Air is the place to go if you're looking for something like an airsoft gun or a BB gun. Airsoft will never replace actual firearms training, but it is still a good way to get some training in when you're at your home or when you actually can't go to the range. So if you guys are interested, check out Pyramid Air using the link down in the details section. And thank you again, Pyramid Air, for sponsoring this video. So like I said in the intro, in this video, I want to talk about a new pro-gun bill which was introduced into Congress, and it seeks to finish something that the Supreme Court actually started all the way back in like 1995. Representative Thomas Massie from Kentucky announced his reintroduction of H.R. 7415, also known as the Safe Students Act. The Safe Students Act seeks to repeal the amended 1990 federal law known as the Gun-Free School Zones Act, or the GFSZA. The GFSZA is a federal law prohibiting any unauthorized individual from knowingly possessing a loaded or unsecured firearm at a place that the individual knows or has reasonable cause to believe is a school zone. The law applies to public, private, or religious elementary schools and high schools in areas within 1,000 feet of those areas or those schools. Violations of the GFSZA come with serious criminal penalties. The GFSZA was first introduced and signed into law back in 1990. Subsequently, in 1995, the Supreme Court actually ruled in a landmark case called United States v. Lopez, which struck down the original version of this law. In that case, a senior high student named Alfonso Lopez carried a concealed weapon into his Texas high school. Allegedly, Mr. Lopez was going to deliver the weapon to another person and was going to get paid $44. The school got an anonymous tip about this and eventually caught Mr. Lopez. The next day, he was then charged with violating the GFSZA and was eventually found guilty. He did appeal his conviction up to the Fifth Circuit and argued that the law exceeded Congress's power to legislate under the Commerce Clause, which ultimately the Fifth Circuit on review agreed with. The US government, after losing in the Fifth Circuit, decided that they wanted to seek Supreme Court review on this issue. The question for the Supreme Court was whether or not the 1990 Gun-Free School Zones Act, forbidding individuals from knowingly carrying a gun in a school zone, was unconstitutional because it exceeds the power of Congress to legislate under the Commerce Clause. In a 5-4 ruling authored by then Chief Justice Rehnquist, the Supreme Court identified 3 broad categories of activity that Congress could regulate under the Commerce Clause. First, the use of channels of interstate commerce. Second, the instrumentalities of interstate commerce, or persons or things in interstate commerce, even though the threat may come only from intrastate activities. And third, any activities that substantially affected or substantially relate to interstate commerce. The court said that the first 2 categories that I mentioned did not apply in this case, so the only question was in regards to that third category that I just mentioned. Ultimately, the court found that the possession of a gun in a local school zone is not an economic activity that might, even though through repetition elsewhere, have a substantial effect on interstate commerce. They ruled the law is a criminal statute that has nothing to do with commerce or any sort of economic activity. Following the Supreme Court's Lopez decision, Congress did rewrite the Gun-Free School Zone Act of 1990 in June of 1995 with language used in other federal gun laws. This was done to try and right all those errors that the Supreme Court just pointed out in that case. This includes language and an added requirement for prosecutors to prove during the actual prosecution case that the gun moved in or affected interstate or foreign commerce. This amended law is still in place today, and that is what this bill from Representative Massie actually seeks to repeal. In his press release, Representative Massie indicates that the enactment of the Safe Students Act would make it easier for state and local governments and school boards to unambiguously set their own firearms policies. He also stated that this would eliminate the one-size-fits-all policy that the federal government is currently forcing on all schools. He stated gun-free zones are ineffective and make our schools less safe. Since 1950, 98% of shootings have occurred in places where citizens are banned from having guns. Banks, churches, sports stadiums, and many of my colleagues in Congress are protected with firearms. Yet children inside the classroom are too frequently left vulnerable. The only thing gun-free zones do is disarm law-abiding citizens and take away their ability to protect themselves and others. We shouldn't leave our most vulnerable, our children, in an unsafe environment like gun-free zones where acts of violence cannot be stopped. Gun-free zones are a lie, said Dudley Brown, the president of the National Association for Gun Rights. It doesn't make guns magically disappear. They only make criminals out of the people who protect our children. Repealing this ludicrous federal law would put criminals on notice that they cannot commit heinous acts in schools with impunity any longer. So as you just saw stated in those quotes, the goal of this bill is to repeal the GFSZA and put the power back into the hands of these schools and communities, and it gives the power back to them to decide how they actually want to protect their own children. Repealing the federal law would prevent the federal government from enforcing their unconstitutional approach on everyone else. I think if teachers and school officials actually want to carry in a school on school property, and if they're proficient and they know what they're doing with firearms, I think more power to them. Let them make that decision for themselves, and we should actually encourage that. As we all know, soft targets are easy targets, and all this federal law does is make it easier for schools to be a target and for criminals to actually know that they can walk into there and they're going to actually face zero resistance. Now, right now, with the makeup of Congress and the current president, I doubt this bill will get really much traction, but I appreciate members of Congress bringing this issue back to light, and also creates a good opportunity for the discussion to pop up once again about prior Supreme Court rulings and issues relating to gun-free zones, and how before, under the Commerce Clause, the Supreme Court has already found this law invalid. It was amended. It's been operating under that amendment, but maybe now it's time once again to get rid of this federal law and maybe even bring this up to the Supreme Court's attention once again. And maybe now they could actually go after it with a more direct Second Amendment approach, because back then the Supreme Court really wasn't dealing with a whole lot of Second Amendment issues, but now it seems like maybe there is a greater appetite for the Supreme Court to deal directly with Second Amendment issues. So this could be another avenue to directly challenge this law, but under the Second Amendment context instead of under the Commerce Clause. So I wanted to bring this bill to your attention, and also I thought it was a good opportunity to talk about a prior Supreme Court landmark decision on an issue that kind of related to Second Amendment issues. So if you guys have any questions, go ahead and comment down below, and I'll try to answer the best of my ability. Also, if you guys like this video and like support the channel, one of the best ways to do that is to like, comment, and subscribe. All those things help to fuel the algorithm, or fuel Algorithm rhythm. It adds fuel to his jet, and it signals to YouTube that you guys see value in these videos and in this type of two-way news. Again, I want to thank everybody who likes, comments, subscribes, who hits the notification bell, who shares these videos. You guys are directly impacting these videos, impacting this channel, and helping me to reach and educate more people than I could ever do on my own. So thank you so much for all of your support. Also, I want to mention, if you're not currently subscribed, please consider subscribing. I'm hoping to actually reach 300,000 subscribers before my 3-year anniversary here on YouTube. That's going to be in early July. So I think it would be really awesome to actually reach that landmark before my 3-year anniversary. So if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing. And again, all that really does help this channel. But regardless, as always, thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And never forget, this station was built by armed scholars, and the station will be maintained by armed scholars.